Thanks for tuning in to the Drive On podcast, where we're focused on giving hope and strength to the entire military community. Whether you're a veteran, active duty, guard, reserve, or a family member, this podcast will share inspirational stories and resources that are useful to you. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to Drive On. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and today my guest is Seth Gehle. Seth is a veteran and expert in leadership and personal development with a focus on helping individuals and organizations achieve their full potential. And he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience and insights that are particularly valuable for veterans and active military personnel looking to transition to civilian careers or enhance their leadership skills and their personal lives. So before we get into all of that, which I think is going to be a great show, great topics and everything. But before we get into all of that, Seth, welcome to the show. I'm really glad to have you here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's always an
Yeah.
honor when somebody wants to have a good conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I've noticed just throughout the years doing this show is everybody's got different perspectives on how their own 2 cents on how to do one thing or another. But when you start piecing all that stuff together, when you hear little bits, and sometimes you got to hear it from different people multiple times over and over again until it finally clicks with you. But when you hear different perspectives, different ways of doing things, different people's stories and stuff, it sometimes just starts to form itself in people's minds. And that's what I'm hoping to do, is just get different perspectives out there, different insights and experiences to basically just help other folks who might be just struggling, not able to figure it out on their own. And they start hearing messages like what we're going to share today. And hopefully that kickstarts things in their life and gets them moving down the right path. So why don't we just start off? Would you be able to tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into focusing on leadership, personal development, that type of thing, and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, my background's a little rocky. I had a very traumatic, tough childhood upbringing. 16 years, I kind of went through the full spectrum of child abuse and neglect, and kind of witnessed everything from just physical, emotional, and then sexual abuse as well as a young man. And my mom was addicted to hard drugs and abusive. And so I went through a lot of that as a young man to almost an unfathomable amount. Like when I tell my story to people, it's almost like incomprehensible. Like people don't understand how you could do that or go through that and kind of, and one, to do all that, but then to be in the shoes that I'm in today. So that's kind of like my very brief backstory, and we can get into that we can get more into that if you'd like, if you have questions. But when that all ended, I was about 16, and a couple years later, I joined the army and served in the army for 8 years. And initially, I was in the reserves. I was a mechanic. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. The recruiters got me with like blowing shit up, and so I was just like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so I joined the reserves, thinking that I was like this combat like soldier killer, and which was not the case. So when I found out that the reserves was not really like the full-time army deal, I was blown away, and I was like, what the hell's going on? So I ended up going active, and I was like 20 years old when I went active, 19 or 20. And I signed an 18X contract to go special forces candidate. We went down to Fort Benning, graduated. I had to go back through basic training because I was a non-combat MOS prior. So I had to go to basic training again. And after that, I went to airborne school. I got kicked out of airborne school for a curfew violation, probably the only person ever to be kicked for curfew. So I went to Fort Stewart, Georgia for a couple years, went back to airborne school, passed the second time, decided to stay in the barracks. And after passing that second time, I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina for the last few years. And then after getting out of the army, I got into construction. And my transition getting out of the military went really well. Like I just it was a lot of work and a lot of effort, but everything that I did worked out for me in my favor. So oddly enough, when I was getting out, I spent a lot of time coaching other guys through the transition to civilian life. And I had not even made that transition yet, but I was making big breakthroughs. I was kind of hitting big milestones, finding out about classes and certifications and people to connect with and people to talk to. And a lot of people were asking me, like, how did you do this? Who did you talk to? How did you figure that out? Where did you find these things? And so I just started helping guys. And since I had all these people asking me, I was like, well, I'll just start making videos on LinkedIn about what I'm doing. And so that I actually did that for almost like probably a year, year and a half, because after I got out of the army, I got into construction and our company was hiring like bad. So I recruited probably 10 or 15 veterans from Georgia, and I got hired out in like Washington and Texas, and I think in the Carolinas, because I came back to Atlanta where my wife is from. So I started recruiting guys and getting them into the construction industry and explaining to veterans the value of construction and the value that they can bring and the benefits of it. The money to be made in construction is incredible. So that was like one of the biggest selling things was telling veterans like guys like look, you can come into this role as a project manager as a you don't have to be out in the sun swinging the hammer, like you can do what I'm doing, because a lot of guys, I mean, I was only 24 or so when I got out, but I'd spent 6 years in the infantry, multiple deployments, all those things. So, like, I tell people it's not the years, it's the miles that we put on our bodies. And so I tried to explain that to the younger guys or even the older guys when they were getting out, like, dude, you don't have to go back and swing the hammer. If you want to, great. But if you don't, there are other opportunities out there. So, anyways, and doing all of that, I helped a lot of veterans out, and then I won some national awards. And when I got those awards, that's kind of when I figured out, okay, I need to write a book. So I started writing a book, and then I really have been kicking off my motivational speaking career and my motivational speaking career. I'm kicking off a podcast here soon, but that's when I really figured out that like I have a message that people can learn from. If I came from where I came from and to go out, serve, and then get on a stage in Las Vegas and receive some awards at a big conference, there's something that somebody else can relate to in that story and hopefully learn from. And I've had many, many guys reach out and been able to help them. So it's been a good ride.
And that's awesome to hear that your transition went as smoothly as it did, because you hear all these horror stories from people who are getting out and they take the uniform off for the last time and they realize, crap, I have no plan. I have no idea what I'm gonna do next. They hadn't really considered it. They got out and the world is out there, but nobody is there holding their hand. Like in the military, it's not hand holding. Maybe that's not the right phrase for it, but you got places that you're supposed to be at a certain time, a certain uniform that you're supposed to be wearing at that time, certain time to go eat, a certain time to do this and that and the other, and your pay is taken care of, and your health care is taken care of. All these things are sort of taken care of for you while you're in the military. I'm not saying that the pay is great or anything. It certainly could be better, but a lot of things are taken care of for you while you're in the military. So you don't have to think about those things. As soon as you take that uniform off, all of that falls on you. And not to say that it's impossible, but it's stuff that if you hadn't considered it before, you got to start thinking about these things. And so seeing someone like yourself who has made the transition, made it relatively smoothly, and have helped other folks who were getting out and getting into different career fields, even within the construction industry, right? Like you said, you could be swinging the hammer if that's what you want to be doing, but there's other stuff too. There's just like in the military, you could be the grunt, the infantry guy who's out in the field, kicking indoors and doing all that kind of cool stuff. But there's support roles that need to be there too. There's logistics, there's all these other things that need to go into it. I heard a statistic the other day, and I don't know how true it is. I didn't look into it, but it sounds like about right. It said for every one infantry guy who's out in combat, you need about 8 to 10 support role people to help support that person, whether it's logistics or cooks or mechanics, whatever the case may be. All these people need to be around for that one person to be out there in the field. So there's a lot of things in the civilian world that aren't just out there in the sun swinging the hammers, that type of thing. There's a lot of other support roles as well, and you made a good point with that. And I kind of laughed when you said how long you were in the infantry. I was about the same amount of time as an infantryman, and yeah, the body does kind of keep the score, if you will.
Right, right.
Let's talk about kind of leadership. You seem like you kind of just fell into like naturally into a leadership position here because you're helping these people, and that's kind of part of being a leader, whether you know it or not. Like that's one of the things that a leader does. They help people, they help bring people up and not push people down or like a like someone who's just driving people to just keep go, 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 and push every ounce of energy out of these people. Like, no, you want to help build them up so that they can become better. And when they get better, they can help other people, and everybody gets better that way. And so talking about leadership, from your perspective, what is it that makes an effective leader? And what is it both on the military and the civilian side? Probably more importantly on the civilian side, but what is it in your opinion that makes a good leader, and how have you kinda helped other people get into that role?
Yeah, so it's funny whenever I tell my story, people always say like, "How did you're so positive or you're so maybe you're thinking I'm a good leader or something like that." People say these things about me. And to be clear, I've not always been like this, right? I had my growth, I had my time of struggle, and when I was especially when I first joined the infantry, my platoon sergeant was a ranger for like 15 years. And so he he wanted me to be a bulldog. And so I was just like tearing guys up and I was just like yelling, screaming all the time, just getting after it. Now the thing about me is I cared deeply about all of my guys. Like so I was so invested in their performance and their futures. So much so that like once I figured out finances, it's funny when I joined the army, they're like, "Hey, you need to invest in your retirement." And I was 17, 18, 19. I was like, "Dude, I'm not putting away $100, $200 out of my paycheck for something that I'm not going to see in like 50 years." And so I didn't understand the value of it, right? But then when I became a leader and I did understand the value of it, I actually would sit down with my guys and make sure that their finances were good. I would sit down and make sure that they knew how to budget. I would sit down and I told them, I was like, "Look, guys, I know it's not fun. I know it's not cool, but this is going to help you and your family. So please just listen. I really want y'all to get something from this." And so, like, as a leader in the military, it took me a long time to get there. I mean, it took me a while before I finally accepted that I need to be the example for these guys. I kind of wanted the leadership spot. I wanted the team leader spot, but I didn't want the things that came with it. And then I was given that spot, and then I started to implement the things that I needed to. I started to become that example. I was never a runner. I wasn't the fastest guy. I was always the strong guy. But, my the PT was fine. I wasn't a 300 guy, but I was like, I don't know, 270, 280. And I tried to be a good example for the guys, but that carried out even when I was getting out of the military. That's I just had this like passion to help people. And when I figured out the steps, I just had this like drive because I know how hard it is to get somewhere when you don't know where the hell you're going and you
Right.
don't know what to do, you don't know where to start. So when I was getting out of the army, I was like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I just started listening to people and taking their advice. And everything they said, I'd write it down and then I would take action on it. And so in doing all that, I got all these resources, got all of these answers, and I started pushing that to everybody that I talked to. And that part for me when I was getting out of the military was very natural for me to like care of others and to I really wanted to see other guys succeed. I wanted them to see take my advice and run and go and do things with it. The problem with that, I just talked about this last week, was it's very simple. Getting out of the military and getting a job and doing all the things is very simple. It's the problem is it's very hard. So there are tasks that I had to be completed, which was, hey, you can go to this class, get this certification, do this course. It takes 3 months, do this course, get this certification, meet with this person, they'll build your profile, give you a free headshot, do all this. You just have to do this part first. So there's all these things that you could do. It just takes time, effort, and that was the struggle that I had was trying to get people to understand how valuable those things were. I wanted them to be more successful than they wanted to be successful. And so for me, I can I've been told that I can be like very pushy in that sense where I'm like, "Hey man, like did you get this done? Did you get this done?" So I had to back off eventually and people would come to me and ask me for help and I would tell them I'd say, "Hey, it's a lot, but if you want I'll tell you everything I did step by step and I'll tell you exactly how to do it yourself." And one of the things that I said was, you know, for me to find a job in Atlanta, went on LinkedIn, typed in Atlanta, and I connected with every single person in Atlanta that I could find that was in the construction industry. I literally typed in Atlanta, filtered it to construction and people, connected with every single one of them, and I messaged every single one of these people for like 3 months. Took me a long time messaging every one of them every night, saying like, "Hey, I'm getting out of the military. This is my resume. Like, do you have any advice for me? Any suggestions? Things like that." And out of like 300, 400 messages, maybe 500 messages, I got like 5 responses. But one of those responses led to me being employed and led to me winning awards and also led to me being able to forward that opportunity to other people. Because at that, like I said earlier, at that company, I was recruiting people and bringing them on board. And then just to, I guess, put a bow on the answer, when this right here is probably the thing that I think is the most important about leadership, and it truthfully, it doesn't seem like others think this way, and I don't know why, and maybe it's me, maybe I'm wrong, I might be wrong about this, I don't know, but I just have this when I got guys recruited to this company, Pulte Group, and I had 3 people that were training underneath me, it was more important that they learned and developed their skills to be good at that job than it was for me, who was already seasoned, I suppose, or I already knew how to do the job. I grew up very fast in that job. I did very well from the jump. So because I was doing so good, it was more important that I taught these 3 or 4 new people how to do that job to the level that I was doing it at, which was number 1 in the division. The reason why it was so important to me was because I thought about their families, like, and I would tell them this. I would say, "Look, listen, if you do what I'm doing right now, you're going to be successful, and then you are going to have money. Your bonuses are going to be 150%. Your family's going to be happy. You're going to be happy. You're going to move up the ladder. You're going to move up the chain." And the 3 or 4 people that I trained, they did it. And 3 of the guys that I worked with, and then myself, we were all in the top 25 in the country at one point. I was like number 3, and but in the division, we were all in the top. We were all like top 5 in the division. And so the VP of construction was even reaching out to me, asking me like, "Hey, what are you doing? How are you doing this? How are you guys figuring this out? What's going on?" The issue with that was the other people around me kind of looked at me like a kiss ass almost, or like a too good to be for everybody
Right.
else. And I really wasn't trying to be like that. I was like, guys, like I honestly, the only reason I talk so much and the only reason I'm trying to give so much advice is because what I'm doing is working. And I see what you guys are doing and it's not working. And there's a dashboard that comes out every Friday that tells me that what you guys are doing is not working because you're not able to compete with me. So there's probably some ways I could have rephrased that to make it less sounding
A little more
arrogant.
palatable, right?
Yeah, right, right. So I mean, that's probably been my biggest issue as a leader and leading people is like trying to articulate the message in a way that can be received and appreciated versus almost like talking down on somebody. I try not to talk down on people.
Sure.
I try to like lift them, but sometimes from me it does come off like that. And think, like I said, to answer your question entirely was as a leader, even in the military, my job was to make sure that my guys knew their jobs and could succeed and do better and move on. And that was more important to me than doing my job and getting the reward.
Yeah, and I think whether it's in the military or civilian world or whatever, if you're a leader of people, um, people are going to ask you to develop those people and get them able to do a job, whether it's in the construction or military, I don't care what the industry is. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be either of those. But someone's going to look at you to develop those people, and they're going to give you tasks that need to be done, right? And those people are going to have to do those tasks. And if they're unable to, it's going to reflect on you because weren't able to develop them into the type of workers who can do those types of tasks. And then those tasks are going to fall on you. They still need to get done, right? And so that's going to just make your work even harder. And so why wouldn't you want these people to grow in their abilities to be able to do more, excel in their career and move up, advance. And like what you were saying, people are going to start to notice the performance from the people that you're developing. And when you catch that kind of attention, that's good attention, by the way. You catch that kind of attention, that's going to lead to advancements for you to not only did you work with those 3 or 4 people? Now you're gonna move up in the organization maybe, and you're gonna now have 30 or 40 people that you're gonna be working on and helping to build and things like that. And then you move up even further. And now it's not 30 or 40, it's 100 or something. Like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And not to like someone else might be sitting out there listening to this and be like, "Oh, great, more work." But with that more work, there's more money, more benefits, more all of that comes along with it. And those things are a positive thing. Like it's going to help advance your career. It's going to help your family out with obviously more money and things like that. But I think the message for the folks who are listening from all of what you were saying, one of the big takeaways that I got was you have to take action on things like when advice is given to you. It's great. You can read all the self-help books. You can listen to this episode. You can listen to all the episodes of this podcast and every other podcast like it, and you can listen to them till your heart's content. But if you don't do anything, what good is it? You just wasted your time reading that book or listening to that episode or whatever. It's a complete waste of your time if you don't do anything with it. Now, maybe not everything that you hear is going to fit exactly with the scenario that you're in for the listeners. And that's fine. I get that. Like this is kind of generic, generalized content here that we're talking about. So it's going to be on you to figure out which pieces you're gonna grab and take action on. But you have to take action. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels and you're not going to go anywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's I've taken this weird. I've taken these like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm taking on a new leadership role probably right now, and that role is in the I guess I'll say victim advocacy for lack of a better term, or the human trafficking or the child rescue kind of situation. I
Sure.
think that's kind of probably where my life is going in the next year or two based on my book and my past. But I'm taking on this it's I would say it's another role. People are looking to me, messaging me, emailing me and asking me like, "Seth, how did you do it? How did you overcome those things? How did you not become an addict or an alcoholic?" Or so in that sense, they're looking to me for guidance, right? And I think that's who do you go to for guidance? You go to the leaders, you go to the people that have been there and gone through it and somehow they're successful, right? So yeah, I mean for me now, the leadership role that I'm taking, it's the same thing. Is I tell people all the time, like if you want to get over your mental health issues, if you're having the depression and the suicide and those issues that you have, well, the things that have helped me are reading, writing, and speaking about it. I read books. I read a lot of books and listen to books, and I would even consider like listening to a podcast almost as a form of reading. You're just
Sure.
kind of it's the same thing as listening to an audiobook to me. So reading that and taking in other people's stories and perspectives, but then applying them to my life and understanding like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, that's why I act like that, or okay, that's why people do this. And then writing for me, I tell them the same thing. Hey, man, write things down. Me writing a book, so it's a little different, but journal. If there's something that bothered you about your past or bothered you about your mindset, journal it. Go back to it a week later, or 2 weeks later, and continue. Because spoken word is great, but this is if this was out on a podcast platform, it's gone forever. As soon as I say it, it's gone. It's out in the world, it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's the beautiful thing about writing is that you can go back to it and fix it and change it and mold it into this thing that really exemplifies what you're meaning and processing in your head. Um, so that's the reading, writing, and then speaking is just even on a podcast platform, or if it's to your therapist or your spouse or to a best friend, just talking about your issues and your problems and the things that you're having is going to help you heal. Now, I say all that to say, I tell people this all the time. Hey, man, this is what you should do if you want to heal. If you want to have a better mentality, you want to have a better mindset. These are some of the things that you could do. And like you said, it's you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. And what's beautiful is when they do start drinking the water, and then you're like for me, I drink all the water. Anytime somebody gives me anything, I'm like, dude, let's go. Like I'll take something out of what you gave me and apply it.
Yeah.
And what I always try to do is return the favor. I got connected with a Green Beret and up in Nashville. His name's Nick Lavery. And Nick has helped me a lot over the last about actually not even a year yet. It's been like 7 months. And I'm making sure that he knows that I'm taking everything he gave me and running with it and applying it and what it's doing for me. Like I want him to be fulfilled by the little bit of time that he spent investing in me. So as a leader, I try to invest my time in others, but then I also try to return my investment or the time that it was invested in me. I try to return that to the people who have done it. Try to let them know, like, hey man, your advice was solid. Like I started taking your advice and this is what I'm doing now. Because I know as a leader, I know how many times I've told people things and it's one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
And it sucks. So that's why I always try and go back up and say, like, hey man, that advice was great. Or hey, I tried this and it didn't really work out. Do you have another suggestion? Things like that. I try to keep that communication open.
Well, it's probably almost demoralizing if you're in that position and you're giving advice all the time and people just like you said in one ear out the other, and it's like at some point you're like, why am I even bothering? If no one's gonna listen to me, no one's gonna take any of this advice. It's worked for me. I've seen it work for other people. I'm trying to help you out, but you don't want to listen. Okay, well, eventually, maybe I stop helping out. But if you start seeing the person succeeding, they're moving up, and then they're telling you, "Hey, I did exactly what you just told me, and that's why I've had the success that I've had." It's like, "Hey, man, that feels good." Like, I don't know, and anyone who's listening out there, if you've ever helped anyone with anything and you see them be successful, I don't care if it's something as little as helping your kid learn how to ride a bike, and you see them for that first time riding the bike by themselves, and you're like, that's awesome. I helped it, but, like, that feels good to see them. I remember my oldest son, the first time that he started riding his bike with no training wheels or whatever, he was screaming his head off, he was so excited, and, like, that just filled me up. I felt so good, and I'm like, "That's awesome," but if if it was the other way around and he just didn't listen to anything that I was saying, and he just kept falling off the bike, and he was like, "Ah, I don't wanna do this." Like, "Okay, well, I don't know how much more I can help with things like that." Maybe it's a little different working with kids, but, still, it's just that personal development side of things where people are needing to continue to grow, whether it's in their career, their personal lives, or relationships, things like that. There's some aspect of this growth that you just because you've hit an objective doesn't mean that you stop there, right? You want to continue to go. I heard a guy talking, I forget who it was now, but he was saying how goals are not really great to have because goals by definition they have an end. Like you hit that goal and it's done. There's no past that really, and so it's the mindset shift has to be to every day just get a little bit better and work towards better is the goal. Always getting better as opposed to, oh, I want to get this job, I want to get that promotion, I want to do this, that, whatever. It's always just getting just a little bit better every day. And I think that's kind of the goal with the personal development, right?
Yeah, I think I've heard something similar to that, and I think they say it's not I have a goal, but a vision or a dream or a
Sure.
that thing that's in there that's what I tell people too. I tell them the same thing. Like think about where you want to be and what your life looks like. What is I was just on a call with the Gym Reapers owner, the owner of Gym Reapers. It's a gym apparel. They're getting into some other things now, but he took a company that was $1,000 and turned it into $60 million in less than 10 years. And one of the questions was like, well, how do you do it, right? And so that's what he said was, I had a vision, I had a dream, I had this vision in my head, and I wrote it down, and then I reverse engineered it. Like, what does it take for me to get there? And then that's how you find all of those blocks that you've got to check, all of those boxes to get to that stage, to get to that point. And if you want to, it doesn't matter what you want to do in life. If you want to be better, you want to be better mentally. Okay, what does that look like? What do I got to do to get there? And then you've got to be willing to take those steps. And I think for me, when I read books, I don't know, I just when I started reading books and I started figuring it out, like, it made so much sense, and I was just like, "Dude, like, this is such great advice, this is so brilliant," and when I heard people talking about it, like, it created, like, clarity for me, like, I was able to see
Mhm.
finally. So that's what I wanted for other people. I was like, "Guys," I was like, "Listen, if you do this, like, these things work, it really does," like, any sort of therapy or when it comes to career things like networking. Everybody was doing the wrong thing when it came to career stuff. Everybody's filling out job applications. And I was like, guys, like stop with the job applications. Stop submitting your resume to places. You need to make connections. When it came to the mental health thing, you got to get outside, exercise, talk to people. If you stay clammed up, it's not going to help, man. And
Right.
there's obstacles in life, and every one of them is an opportunity to condition your mind. You talk about teaching a kid to ride a bike, it's an obstacle and it's a conditioning thing, right? If every time you hit snooze on the alarm clock instead of get up, you're conditioning your body to like just snooze, 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 instead of getting up and going to the gym or getting up and going to work, or it could be anything in life, but
Sure.
there's anytime you come up across something challenging, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to succeed and to get past it? So that's something that I try to get people to understand is that you've got to look for these challenging moments, the things that are harder. There's another example that I heard recently was like life is a test, and it's like the rope bridge. What do you do when you approach a rope bridge over we'll say a big river, right? The first thing you do is you reach out and you give it a shake with your arms. Okay, okay, it's not falling apart. It just passed the test. The next thing you do is you put one foot on the first plank. Okay, it's holding one foot. It passed the test, and then you put 2 feet on there. Okay, it's holding me. And then you take another step, and it's holding me. So there's just these like series of tests, and every single time you're getting closer and closer to the goal per se, which is crossing that river, crossing that bridge, and on the way every single step, literally on a rope bridge, you just don't know where you're gonna go because
Right.
that's the story behind it all. So there's a lot to that and development and growth, and you've got to be willing to take that step, take that journey, and test yourself.
Yeah, and continue to do that too. Just because you gotta cross that bridge doesn't mean the journey's over. There's someplace else that you need to get to, and it might be you might be in the middle of a jungle or something, and there's trees in the way. All right, well, you gotta figure out how to get around those trees and the overgrowth and everything else. Maybe you gotta cut some stuff down, and you gotta figure things out as you go, but every step of the way, it's a new test. Maybe there's some animals that you don't wanna mess with. Okay, well, we gotta figure something out. We gotta go around them. We gotta every step along the way, using that analogy of crossing that bridge and getting to that next place, every step is going to be a new challenge. It's gonna get you closer to where you want to go by accomplishing whatever that challenging thing is. And that's the same thing with life, right? I mean, you have to do challenging things. I mean, you don't you don't feel accomplished by hitting the snooze button, by not doing the hard thing in life, right? If you are going to school and you stop halfway before you got your degree or whatever, it's like, well, I mean, yeah, you went to a few classes, but you didn't get the degree, so like that's not accomplishing that goal of getting the degree to be able to get that next job that you're trying to get to or whatever, or working just hard enough to get by. Well, that's not going to get you the promotion, like that type of thing. So, yeah, you're going to have to challenge yourself. But the good thing with challenging yourself is the more you do it, the easier it gets. And just go back to that riding the bike example for my son before he knew how to ride the bike. That was a challenge for him. And he kept challenging himself until he was able to do it, and now he can ride his bike no problem. This is years later, right? And it's a lifelong skill that he's gonna be able to do with no problem. Take that into your career. Okay, well, there's some challenging things. Maybe for you, getting to work on time is a challenge. Well, if you do that consistently, your boss is gonna notice, "Hey, you're the guy who's always showing up. You're dependable. I'm gonna wanna count on you, and you're gonna be the guy that I go to." And eventually that could lead to other, maybe it's a promotion, maybe it's more, whatever it is. I don't know, specifically in everybody's career what that looks like, but good things will come from that, right? Versus if you don't overcome that challenge and you're consistently late, well, you're not gonna get those opportunities for advancement, and likely eventually you're gonna end up losing your job, and so then you have to start all over someplace else, and that's gonna be even harder. So the better you get at overcoming those challenges, the better things get, I think, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, yeah, and it's so to your point of like seeking out the challenges, like not stopping and things like that. So there's a beautiful reward with the process of accomplishment. I think a lot of times when you're chasing, even if it's a goal, right? You're chasing this end state. If you're chasing the end state, it's going to be really hard to get there. You
Mhm.
have to understand that process and understand the reward that comes with it and the damage that instant gratification does. Instant gratification, you pick up your phone, you're scrolling through, I don't know, TikTok, right? You don't like it, swipe, don't like it, swipe, don't like it, swipe, right? So there's this constant feedback loop of like, okay, if I don't like it, I could just quit. I can just move on to the next thing because it's immediate, right? It's quick. And
Yeah.
even with like it's like little kids, if you have a 2 year old or I've got a 6 and a 4 year old, if every time they want something, if I just give it to them all the time, every single time, they're never going to be happy because the accomplishment comes from the journey of working for whatever you've got. It comes from that struggle, right? So instant gratification is it's a really bad thing. And so even as a parent, but I would say even as a leader, as I let people below me struggle,
Mhm.
I see them struggling. That's okay. Like, hold on, sit back and see what he does with it. What's he going to do? Is he going to fold up, quit? Is there a workaround? Is there a way to do this? And there's a lot of times that you'll go to your boss and you'll say, "Hey, I got a question." Boom. And they're like, "Okay, have you tried this?" And they know the answer. Like they could just tell you the answer right there. And sometimes you may know that they know, right? And they're just not telling you. So then you got to go back to your desk, sit down, try and do what he just said. And it's frustrating because it's like, dude, just tell me. But at the end of the day, when you figure it out on your own or with a little bit of help, it's a lot more rewarding. You're a lot more, the gratitude is there for it. Even my kids, we were at a park yesterday and my daughter was trying to climb a tree and I didn't tell her how. She was circling this tree, trying to figure out how to get into this tree. She tried multiple times and got scared and failed and this and that. And I'm not going to help her get into the tree. If she wants to climb the tree, she can climb. She better figure out how to get in that tree because once she gets up there, one, she's going to have to need to get back down. So she better figure it out. And so she did. She got up there, and then while she's up in the tree messing around, she slips and she falls, and she's hanging onto a branch and she's screaming like, "Help me! Help me! Help me!" And she was like 3 inches from the ground. So I was like, no, I was like, put your legs down. You're fine. Put your legs down and let yourself drop. And she didn't want to. She was terrified, right? She's
Yep.
scared. And some people on the outside end may be looking at this like, dude, why would you not help your daughter? Or you see your kid is scared at the park in the jungle gym because he's up too high or something. And it's like, give them a second, sit back and let them figure it out. Let them see if they can figure it out because that when they do, they're so proud of themselves.
Yeah.
When they climb the rock wall for the first time by themselves, they're so proud because they figured it out, right? They're not there with you holding their hand, pulling them up along the way. And it's the same thing with being a leader. It's the same thing helping people at work. showing them the way and letting them struggle through it, letting them get through it. And maybe that was part of my issue as I was a couple years ago was maybe I was too involved as a leader, too involved trying to get these guys to do exactly what I was doing. That may have been a adjustment that I could have made. I don't know, but knowing what I know now, I understand the value in struggling. And you talked about the college thing. When I got my degree, I was working a full-time job and going to the gym, being a father, being a husband, doing all of the things. And so my degree to me means a lot because I was doing all of these things to get there. If I had to just walk across the street, pick up my diploma, and that was it, it's not that impressive.
Right.
A life without struggle, a life without obstacles and and struggling and pain and suffering, it's almost impossible to live a remarkable, incredible life if you've never struggled, if you've
Yep.
never had obstacles in your way. And for me, I've had so many obstacles that it's like I said earlier, it's almost incomprehensible. It doesn't make any sense. It's literally unbelievable to some people. And so because I've gone through all that and I've done what I've done, that's why I get so fired up about being a leader and fired up about getting people to understand their true potential and the things that they can do with a little bit of perspective, gratitude, ownership, all of those things that you can just do amazing things with your life.
Yeah, you absolutely can. With, like you said, just sticking with it, not giving up on the thing, not hitting that snooze button of whatever it is that you're working on. There's a figurative snooze button for just about everything where you can just put it off, put it off, put it off, and eventually that becomes a habit that you've learned. I even talking with about kids again. I teaching my kids how to play baseball. One of my sons had this nasty sidearm thing where he was throwing the ball sidearm, and I'm like, "Look, you keep throwing the ball sidearm, you're gonna keep getting sidearm kind of throws where they're going all over the place. You start learning how to throw it overhand and getting the right motion, you're gonna get some good throws. And if you practice things the wrong way, you're gonna get really good at doing things the wrong way. And that's kind of a problem. Like just in life in general, if that's your what you do is you're practicing those bad habits, you're gonna get really good at doing those things that are the bad habit. And so, yeah, you have to put the time, put the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears into whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in order to achieve that objective. Sometimes it's going to be really hard. Oh, as a matter of fact, a lot of times it's going to be really hard. But anything, I think, in my opinion, anyways, anything worth doing is going to be hard. If it was everything was just easy, everyone would do it, and then we'd all just kind of be at the same level. So there's going to be people who they don't wanna put in the effort. Well, okay, they're gonna be stuck at a certain level, but then there's gonna be those people who put in just a little bit of effort more, and they're gonna be a little bit higher up. And then there's gonna be that next set of people who put even more effort in. They're gonna be even higher up than them, and they're gonna move closer and closer and closer. It's like that bridge example, that rope bridge. There's gonna be some people who won't even take that first step onto the bridge. They're gonna approach it and be like, "You know what? It's not worth it to me. I'm not doing it. That's too high up. I don't think I can do it." They're gonna be stuck on the other side. And there's gonna be some other people who, I don't know, they get about halfway and they see the next board looks a little shaky and they're like, "You know what? I'm turning around, I'm going back. That I made it part way, but I didn't do it." And there's gonna be other people who just plow right through and they make it to the other side, but they gotta keep going. If you don't keep going, you'll never make it to that other side, whatever the other side of that life experience might be. You're never gonna make it if you don't keep going through, keep pushing through those difficult things. Overcome your fears, overcome the doubts that you have in your head. God knows I have them in my head. I think it's natural. I think most people have some sort of self-doubt going on in their head, but you gotta overcome those in order to achieve any sort of objective. Hell, in the military, I mean, you're going out on a mission, especially infantry guys, right? Like, you go out on a mission where people are probably gonna start shooting at you or trying to blow you up or something like that. There's gonna be a few doubts, right? I think that's not that's not something that most people wanna just jump right into. It's gonna be a challenge to get yourself to get going and do those types of things, but you do it, and it turns out you achieve your objective. You get to where you're going, you find the thing that you're looking for, you do the mission, you accomplish the mission, and things are good, hopefully, with that. Not to say that there's not challenges and there's not setbacks, because they're gonna be with anything that you try. You're gonna try things and fail, but that failure is you can use that as a teaching lesson, where that helps accelerate you into even better experiences. And so you just have to keep going, I think. And that's I think that's the biggest takeaway from all of this, right?
Yeah, I think a life in like mediocrity is something that I don't want. So
Yeah.
I try to challenge myself. I try to do things. People ask me a lot like why I do the things that I do, why I'm writing a book. I think, being called calling yourself an author is something that not a lot of people can say. So for me, it's been a hell of a challenge, and it's been good. And I even talked about this a few months ago, where when I first started really getting my book on the route to publishing, it's very expensive, first off. And so I had to front some bills to get the book going. And at that same time, it's funny, I backed into my garage door. My wife backed into hers. She ripped hers off the frame. So we had to get hers fixed, which was like $3,000 to $4,000. And then I paid my taxes, so I paid like $4,000 in taxes earlier this year. And then the IRS took out they double charged me basically. And of course, being the government, they're like, "Yeah, you'll get your money in 6 to 8 weeks." And so that was 4 months ago. I actually just got that check, by the way.
It's
But when it all
literally
ha
a button they have to push to send it to you, and it'll be in your bank account, like, the next day. It's
Right.
that easy, but it's the government, so 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, I got it.
Yep, yep. So when that happened though, I was thinking to myself like, man, like this is one of those moments where life is testing me. I've got to pay for my book and the garage door and the taxes and this and that. Like all these bills hit me out of nowhere,
Yeah.
depleted our savings account, and I could have quit. Like I could have just gave up, right? And I could have just said, you know what, I'm not going to write my book. Right now is not the time. It's too expensive. And I thought to myself, okay, in 15 years from now, 20 years from now, when I tell my kids, yeah, I almost wrote a book. Like, what are they gonna say? Like, well, why didn't you? Well, I quit. Like, the
Yeah.
answer is I quit. The answer is not, "No, all these things happened and then I couldn't do it." So that's what people tell themselves, right? Yeah, I hear it all the time, even from other fathers. They'll say, "Well, man, how do you find the time to work out and like do these things? And what about your kids and this and that?" And it's like, dude, I do the things I do for my children, and I challenge myself. I go to the gym. I work hard, and writing the book. Everything I do is for my legacy, for my children, for my family. I and I look for these things to challenge myself because when I tell people that I do certain things and they're like, "Oh, there's no way in hell I could do that. There's no way I could speak on a stage. There's no way I could travel, and there's no way I could." For example, I started running ultra marathon, and so in the last 9 months or so, I've ran like 7 ultra marathons. And I didn't start with a marathon, I didn't start with a half, I didn't start with I mean, I was in the Army, so I'd already ran my fair share of 10-mile runs or whatever, but I know I'm not a runner, and a buddy of mine attempted an ultra, I saw him do it, and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna do this, like, this looks hard, this looks challenging, like, I'm gonna do it. I don't know why, but I'm gonna do it. It looks miserable, let me do it." And what was so empowering about that for me, for the initial pieces of it was every time I told somebody that, "Yeah, I've got a marathon or an ultra marathon coming up and they're trail races," and they're like, "Oh, well, how long is that?" "It's 31 miles." And the initial response is like, "Oh, there's no way in hell I would do that." And so I was like, "Cool. That's that's what I need to hear." Because like now I'm going to go out and do it. The more that I hear people say I would never do that, it's like, okay, I got to go do it. Then I got to go see. why these people don't want to do it. Like, why do you want to live this life of mediocrity? Why don't you want to like challenge yourself and say that you accomplish these things? And so
Yeah.
I started running ultra marathons, and I knocked out two 30-mile races, of a 50, a 40, a 60-mile race. And then I just last month I ran a 100-mile race. Took me 38 hours to run 100 miles. And now I'm done. I'm officially retired now. I'm good. But, there's this grind and this process, a part that goes into all of that. And furthermore, what I think is funny about my story and running is when you hear somebody talk about running a marathon, they'll say, "Oh, I'm going to get on this program. I plan to run a marathon in 6 months or a year." It's like I decided to run an ultra marathon, and then I did my first ultra in like 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks it was. I just signed up and was like, whatever. I know I can. If it's just running and walking, if all I gotta do is cross that finish line in less than 8 hours or whatever, I know that I can do that. And so I just
Right.
went out and did it. And when I ran the 100 miles, people are like, "How did you do that?" And it's like, it's just one more step. That's all it is. It's another step, it's another lap, it's another mile, and that is getting out of that life of mediocrity. I don't know. I know one other person, two other people personally that have run 100 miles. And I've run into a lot of people in my life, and I've only ever met two of them that have run 100 miles, other than the people that I ran the race with. So there's this there's this beautiful part of life that comes from these challenges and these. I've been all around the world. How was I able to travel and go all around the world? Well, I joined the army, and I paid the sacrifices. I paid my dues of being away from family. I did not get the college experience. People say, "Did you go to college?" Well, I went to the army, and that was my college experience. I wasn't getting wasted with the fraternity, and just I
Sure.
didn't have this 18 to 24 years of age life where there was like almost no consequence or responsibility for me. I had massive responsibilities and duties at that age. And I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this. I don't know when you joined, but when you got to think about that, when guys join when they're 18, 19, 20, what are all their friends doing? All their friends are at home, living their lavish life, living with mom and dad, doing whatever the hell they want to do. Meanwhile, this guy is literally on the brink of a deployment or training rotation or whatever, right? And he's going through so much growth and development, and they don't even realize it. The young soldier doesn't even realize it. And so that perspective of like, man, like you could be at home wasting your freaking time right now and you're not.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said about not being mediocre as a professional, as a soldier, as a parent. I tell I my wife, she works out, she does CrossFit and does some other things a lot. She's very active. And me and my wife, we take pride being the parents that are able to hang out and play with our kids and get up off the floor and get down on the floor and go outside and walk and run. We take a lot of pride in those things because unfortunately nowadays there's so many parents out there who can't do it, and they're 25 years old, 30 years old, and it's like, man, you got a long ride ahead of you. Like this is a sad, mediocre situation that you're putting your children into, and it's
Yeah.
perpetual. If you don't fix yourself, they're not going to fix themselves, and they're going to follow in your footsteps. So there's a lot of that, breaking that perpetual state of mediocrity as a leader, parent, soldier, whatever you want to do. Just don't be mediocre.
Right. And for what you're just saying, the kids are going to see that as normal. Like
Yeah,
that's how mom and dad were. And so that's how I'm gonna be when I have kids, when I grow up. I'm gonna think back like that's just normal. That's how things are supposed to be, I suppose. And so unless there's something that breaks that cycle, right? That flips that light bulb on in their mind that says, well, maybe there's something better than what I had. You said you had a rough childhood growing up. Well, in your head, there was something better than what you had, what you were going through as a kid. And so you're like, okay, well, let's find better. Step one, join the army, right? Like that's a pretty damn good step, I think. Instills discipline, provides a paycheck, gets you gets you established, right? And then you can move on and you can grow in your career, and then you can use the skills that you've learned in the military in your future endeavors. After you leave the military, you can use some of the leadership skills. Even in infantry, we're both infantry, and those skills don't, breaching doors and all that like battle drills and all that kind of stuff doesn't translate too well into the civilian world. We're not kicking in doors, and if we do, we're probably getting arrested. Like that kind of stuff is not very helpful in the civilian world. But there's leadership lessons. There's other things that you can take away from your service, no matter what your job was in the military. And there's so many different jobs that do transfer directly into a civilian career. But if you're just staying stagnant and living a life of mediocrity, you're gonna look back one day and you're gonna be like, "Man, I wasted a lot of time, and I really wish I, even just for some of those days, did something to advance myself, to make myself that 1% better at something. Just try to get a little bit better. Maybe it's a little bit better as a parent. Maybe it's a little bit better with your career or with school or with something in your personal life, physical fitness or your mental health or whatever. I wish I tried just a little bit better. And that way you don't end up living a life of regret. When you get to the towards the end of your life, you're not going to be looking back saying, "Man, this could have been better. I could have done this better," because there's no do-overs in life. But you can start now, and you can say, "You know what? I gave it a damn good try." And I think a lot of people out there need that kick in the ass to say, like, "Get get moving. Put the fucking phone down. Stop looking at that thing and do something useful. Go hang out with your wife, hang out with your kids, hang out with them and build a relationship with them, or study something, read books, learn things. If you're not a reader, fine, don't read, but figure out a way to learn something new. There's lots of ways to do that, and get yourself better one day at a time. Pick one thing, and every day just work at it and get better and better and better. The um, the person that I was talking about earlier who was saying the goals are not helpful because that has like an end point. He quoted the guitarist from Metallica, and he never wanted to be a professional guitarist who was in a band and known all around the world and had all these accolades and all this kind of stuff. He just said he just wanted to get better at being a guitarist. And every day that's what he did. He just focused on getting better. And you put enough time getting better at something, you're gonna be pretty damn good, right?
Yeah.
So, well, I know we're going a little bit long on this episode here, so I want to let you have an opportunity to let the listeners know where they can go to find out more information about you, your work, anything that they may be able to reach out to you as far as maybe social media websites, things like that. Anything that they can do to find out a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, the easiest way to find me or get a hold of me is through Instagram, which is you can look my name up, Seth Gehle. My last name is Gehle, Seth Gehle, or if you type in Go Beyond the Shadows, that's my handle. And then same thing with YouTube, Seth Gehle, Go Beyond the Shadows. I think I'm on all the socials. And then my website is sethgehle.com. That if you go there, you'll be prompted to sign up for my book. My book is coming out late November this year of 2024. So that'll be coming out. And then, yeah, Instagram is definitely the easiest way to follow me. I've got a lot of big things coming up at the end of this year. And I'm sure next year is going to be very exciting in what I'm doing in speaking and writing this book and traveling and helping people. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds exciting. It sounds like you got a lot of things in the pipeline here. Definitely exciting stuff in your life going on. And for the listeners who want to find out more about all this stuff, all the links that Seth just mentioned will be in the show notes. So you'll have access to that wherever you're listening to this. Just check out the show notes. I'll have his Instagram, his YouTube, his website all in there for you to check out. And maybe when that book comes out, we'll have you back on the show. We could talk about the book a little bit and see what's next, because I'm sure there's going to be a what's next edition of this. So you're not going to stop just because the book's out. I'm sure there is something else going on. So really, I do appreciate you coming on. This has been, I think, inspirational. I think for folks who are out there who maybe are in their minds, maybe just living a life that's somewhat mediocre and not uh, living up to their potential. I think they might be able to take something away from this, and they might be able to benefit a bit from the things that we talked about today, and hopefully they can, like you said earlier, you got to take action. You can't just sit there and listen passively to a podcast episode and all of a sudden your life gets better. You can't read a book and all of a sudden your life gets better. You have to take the action on the steps that were provided to you, and hopefully this serves as inspiration to stop hitting the snooze button, get off your butt, go for a run, go achieve your goals, whether it's education or career or personal relationships, whatever it is. Get out there and go achieve them. So thank you again for taking the time to come on and sharing everything that you had to share about this for the audience.
Yeah, yes, sir, man. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and thanks to everybody listening.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On podcast. If you want to support the show, please check out Scott's book, Surviving Son, on Amazon. All of the sales from that book go directly back into this podcast and work to help veterans in need. You can also follow the Drive On podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.